Joe here with FitBodySecrets, here to bring you guys some inspiration, education, and a ton of tips to help you guys on your fitness journey. And I thought that it would be a timely episode for me to put this out at the beginning of November because I am super excited for what is to come in the next 8 weeks. I always love really trying to bring my community together around this time of year and really trying to get people some accountability, some support, and, just a reminder constantly that like, hey, I get it. Like we're all on this journey together, even though in the moment we might feel like we're all alone because everybody else around us doesn't really understand what we're doing. And so today I just thought it would be a really good opportunity for me to just kind of talk to you guys a little bit about the next 8 weeks of your journey. If you are on a journey right now to change your body, to change your mindset, to change whatever it is you're working on and you're trying to progress on in your life, that this next 8 weeks is going to be probably a little bit different for a lot of people. And the next 3 weeks is probably going to be pretty routine. But once Thanksgiving hits, it's kind of like our life just kind of changes a little bit. And it's not that so much that we're, not working as much or we're not, we're not still going to the gym, but there's just a lot more hustle and bustle that is added on top of the already busy schedule that we have. And it makes it really hard for us to stay focused on the things. And we end up getting distracted and we end up making things just more work than they really are. And the concept that you're going to keep always hearing me preach, guys, is simple, simple, simple. Simple is going to work way more than just trying to overcomplicate things, overthink things. And so now is the time for you guys to be thinking about when things get a little bit crazier, like looking at your holiday season. What do you have coming up? And we might not know everything that's coming up, but we probably have a pretty good idea of, all right, where am I going to be for Thanksgiving? When are my travels? When am I taking off from work? Like what family is coming into town? Where am I going to be? Like we kind of have a pretty good idea of what our holiday season looks like because we like literally probably do almost the exact same thing every single year. So today I want to give you guys a couple of things to think about going into the holiday season, along with some of the pitfalls that I see people fall into as they are trying to stay connected and stay committed to themselves and really make progress. And it ends up leading them into that whole guilt come January 1st, where they start this new plan and yada, yada, yada. Which, by the way, we will be doing our second AMRAP 30 macros challenge, totally free for you guys, starting in the beginning of the new year to kind of help you guys reset the right way. So I'm super excited for that. But anyways, let's kind of get rolling into the episode. So if you guys have anything in particular that you want help with in terms of navigating the social stuff, I do have some holiday guides that I'm going to be sending out to people. But I would love to honestly be able to help you guys all out with things and essentially, be able to make you more successful this holiday season. I think that the first thing that I want to start with is that people think that weight gain happens over the holidays. And the real truth is that our weight might be inflated around the holiday season, right? We have these like big social meals and the weight might jump up. But typically the weight gain doesn't really happen over the time of Thanksgiving through Christmas. What really happens is that every week that we have all of these slow little calorie surplus or small calorie surpluses, they start to add up. And maybe you are, I don't know, call it 10 pounds up January 1st. You might initially lose, 8 pounds, because you do that 30-day cleanse. But those 2 pounds that linger are the ones that end up causing the weight gain. Those are the 2 pounds you gain. And it's that those 2 pounds this year never really go away. In fact, they end up adding, right? So we do that 30-day, whatever, we keep those 2 pounds on, we get back to our life. We're not taking care of things. We maybe gain another pound or so over the next, few months. And then summer vacation comes, we gain another pound. And now we look at next year, we're up 5 pounds from January 1st. And then we go into another holiday season where we retain 2 pounds of loss. So that's really the way weight gain happens. But people get so focused on the big fluctuation in the scale and then the big drop in the scale. And all that really is, guys, is the water weight. It's the extra carbohydrates. It's a lot of things. So I want to give you guys some tips today to hopefully offset that a little bit, but more so want you guys to understand that the weight gain doesn't really happen over the holiday season. That is almost like setting you up for weight gain going into the new year. And you guys can be more successful if you guys recognize how to navigate the holidays and enjoy yourself a little bit better and allow yourself to set yourself up for success going into the new year so that you don't have to start some crazy diet. So let's kind of start by talking about some pitfalls I think people fall into that really keep them stuck. And I think that this is the biggest problem is their expectations are not in line with what is practical. You guys all have like the best, everybody wants to say yes to everything. We want to say yes to this, that, and the other thing. And we're also working a full-time job, and we're also trying to take care of holiday shopping. We've got all these different things going on that we end up overcommitting ourselves, both physically, emotionally, socially, and we're just burned out. And so I think the biggest mistake people make is just they overcommit in general to all the different things. They don't look at the next, 6 weeks of their life and say, whoa, I need to take a step back in specific areas so that I can actually be present and enjoy these other things. And that's really, really important. And it's also realistic for you guys to think about, okay, practically, what can I actually take off my plate? For some of you guys, you can't take anything off your plate, in which case adding more onto your plate might not be the right thing to do. And that might be an honest conversation you have to have with your family and your friends and yourself. Is like, all right, realistically, I cannot fit in freaking social things every single weekend for the next month because my job is extremely busy this time of year. But I am going to make it a point that I need to have some social time once a week, and I'm going to make that happen. Because I think what happens when we overcommit, we think social time is relaxing, but it also creates a whole nother layer of stress. So it's important for people to realize that overcommitting, even though it seems like something that might be fun, is still adding stress on your life. And it makes it harder for you to stay connected and committed to the things that you know that you want to be working on this holiday season. Number two is undercommitting to those priorities for yourself. So all of a sudden it's the holiday season and it's okay to like skip your workouts and not eat the same things you've been eating for lunch every day. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, whatever, this is too much right now. I'm just going to get back on track on January. When in reality, nothing should really be changing in your day-to-day routine. As I said, you have to look at your life right now and realize, what am I not wanting to sacrifice right now? Our routine from November 1st to December 1st should stay pretty consistent. Now, am I saying that you shouldn't take a rest day here and there because you have family in town? I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that you should still be able to keep a pretty consistent workout schedule, even if it might be slightly less than what you're typically doing when you don't have so much to do. But I think setting the intention ahead of time is also what you should be doing. So maybe you are doing more home workouts. Maybe you are going to the gym a little bit less. Maybe you are trying to find more active ways to, just kind of, or to be more active in your day so that you don't have to spend so much time in the gym. But it comes down to committing to something for yourself. So it's really this under commitment that we find that is the problem. It's not committing to anything. It's not saying that it has to look exactly the same, but we should be having some commitments that are in place for ourselves. And this is where I'm going to go into as I'm talking about the common mistakes that people make is how to set yourself up for success this holiday season. The next pitfall that people fall into is letting one holiday meal turn into a weekend of holiday indulgences. And this often comes down to a person's mindset of, one is all or nothing thinking, being perfectionistic and not realizing that like food is food. There's no good and bad. It's just lack of education on that. Or two, like the excuse of, oh, whatever, it's the holidays. I can just kind of eat whatever I want right now. It doesn't really matter. And both of those things are going to keep you stuck where you're at and you're never going to make progress. When instead you realize, hey, like if I would rather have this today than my normal dinner, like I'm going to have that, but I'm going to need to make it work into my plan. And that should be part of the plan, which is also why a lot of times during the holidays, I try and get clients to kind of push calories up a little bit, allow themselves maybe a little bit less focus on fat loss, but honestly, just learning how to have a better relationship with food, how to eat like a normal person. At the end of the day, I say, hey, like, you're not always going to be, Joe Schmo trying to lose body fat. Like at some time, you're going to be Joe Schmo who like lost 30 pounds and now you're maintaining it. Right. So this is a great opportunity for you guys to learn how to be that person. I feel like I should write that down. It'd be such a great, I got to write that down, guys. Living lean. I got to write that down because I'm going to forget. Living lean versus losing fat. Had to write it down because I will forget that. And that's going to go on my Instagram stories. Well, my Instagram reels, I guess I should say, which by the way, I hate. I'm so bad at trying to do Instagram reels. I try and get good at it. I'm trying, guys. I hope you guys are liking my content. But I just feel like I think too much about it. Even this podcast, I think too much about. I know I always know what I want to say, what I want to get across to you guys, but sometimes I start overthinking myself and I judge myself. Listen to me. I'm feeling like I'm in a therapy session right now. Anyways. All right. So just honestly getting out of that mindset of all or nothing thinking on the weekends or the holidays and really learning that like, hey, If Thanksgiving is one day, or maybe it's like 2 or 3 days of like maybe one or two meals a day, we can still navigate that and be successful with our goals. Okay. I think another thing, another pitfall that I wrote down here is that like there's a lot of travel and things like that that happen. And then I think that people don't spend enough time learning how to eat outside of their normal routine, that they don't know how to navigate that stuff. And then it ends up becoming almost like a stressful situation where they don't really know what to have. And then it ends up meaning that they have the wrong things. So learning how to be a little bit more flexible with your meal plan is really important for you guys this time of year, especially because even if you're not traveling, just having the flexibility of not having to cook all the time and knowing how to navigate getting foods that are already prepared for you and how to incorporate those things and still stay on track is also important. Just because you're traveling, just because you're visiting family doesn't mean that you have to have, 5 days of eating whatever you want. There might be, a couple of things that you want to have that are special, but you should still be able to stick to your nutrition plan pretty closely when you're out of town. I think people fall into the pitfall of like, I'm not going to track my food on a trip. Well, that's fine if you don't want to track your food on a trip, but the expectations need to be, hey, like I'm relaxing, but I'm also going to be like moderate. And if I'm not being moderate, then I'm also going to have to deal with the repercussions of that when I come home. So it's all of that kinds of stuff. The next thing I wrote down was not staying present. And this is a big one, not even just like with a meal, but with the whole holiday season is, in two ways, not just with food, but like with what you're doing, always being a step ahead, never really being engaged with your friends, your family, always thinking about work. You just learning how to be present is such a good thing for us to practice this time of year, but also with our food. And I think that people start to think so much about, what's coming up next week that they end up there's actually two pieces of this. It's actually one or the other, not staying present. And then rather than just focusing on today, they're like, oh, well, Christmas is next week, so whatever, doesn't matter right now. And they end up letting that just be an excuse to eat whatever they want the entire holiday season, and vice versa. They're not thinking ahead enough. And so that they're eating whatever they want because they don't think about the fact that next week is also Christmas or Halloween or Thanksgiving or whatever it might be. So I think that it's actually two pieces that I put this presence thing is that, and I'll kind of go into this as I'm talking about the tips for you guys. Is like this presence is so important, is being present in the moment of like, here's where I'm at today, but also having a future plan of where I'm going to be next week so that we know how to navigate every party and every social situation and every opportunity to make us more successful at the end of the holiday season. And then the last one I wrote down, guys, is you got to be flexible. Nutrition should be super flexible. You should be able to incorporate all foods into your plan. Does that mean it's always going to be perfect? No. Is it always going to be nutrient dense? No. But for the priority of our time, it should be. And then the special occasions are going to come up. We have to learn how to be flexible. We have to learn how to understand our expectations should not always be towards, is this going to help me lose weight? It should also be towards, am I enjoying this food? Am I enjoying the experience? And am I making the best choices right now with what I can do? And that's going to help you guys set yourself up for, if anything, no weight gain over the holiday season, if not still seeing results over the holiday season. So those are a lot of my mistakes people make. My coffee's almost gone. All right. Now I'm going to talk to you guys, and it's kind of going to be a lot of the mistakes, kind of be the opposite of this, is like the tips. Okay. So number one is, and I didn't write these down, but it's because it's a lot of my mistakes are going to kind of go into my tips, is that you have to look at where you're at in your journey. All right. So going into the holiday season, have you been spending quite a bit of time in a cutting phase or a fat loss phase? Is now the opportunity for you to say, hey, I want to work on bringing calories up, eating at maintenance for a little while to allow my body to recover from that dieting phase and do this the right way. And then going into the new year, I can actually start another cutting phase. Now, this is a more appropriate way to approach seasonal fat loss, because now we can use the seasons and the opportunity to be more social and a little bit more flexible with our diet as a diet break to allow us to be more effective at cutting weight coming into the new year, as long as we're doing it in a sustainable, moderate way. This is not yo-yo dieting. This is a very planned out, periodized approach to your nutrition. And I actually had recorded a podcast on that just recently. So understanding where you're at in your phase is important. Number two on that is expectations of what you should expect. You should expect some funky weight fluctuations after a big holiday meal. That is totally normal. It is totally acceptable for the weight to be up 2 or 3 pounds after a big holiday meal. However, that is not weight gain. That is weight fluctuations. It's over time. If every single week that weight gain is staying on, it's never coming back down, then we are seeing weight gain. And that's where we can kind of pull things back in a little bit. So I think that one tip that I can give you guys is consistently weighing yourself. And I think a lot of people tend to avoid the scale. Well, why do they avoid the scale? If the expectation this holiday season isn't to be losing weight, it's simply a metric to make sure that we're maintaining. And it allows you to have that, a little bit of control, and it allows you to be more aware of how your eating habits are impacting your weight. And so keeping track of that, that's kind of what I do for all my clients. I kind of check to make sure their midweek weigh-ins are looking pretty consistent every single week. That means that they're maintaining throughout that period of time. So I think the next thing that I'm going to put on here is kind of going into where you're at in your journey is setting the intent. I already mentioned, under committing to our personal priorities. I already mentioned, obviously, where you're at in your fat loss phase. But now let's set some commitments to ourselves, some promises that we're going to keep, whether it's I'm going to hit the gym 4 times a week, even if I have to do it at my house. I'm going to work out 4 times a week. I am going to only have one social meal a week, whatever that might be. The other meals, I'm going to call them social gatherings, but the social meal is only going to be limited to once a week. I am going to be consistent with hitting my calorie goals and my protein goals no matter what. I'm going to be consistent on my macros, except for if I have to, make some adjustments for a holiday party. That's where I'm going to focus on calories, whatever that might look like to you that you want to commit to. And these are just some ideas. Doesn't mean you have to do those things. That's really important for you guys to understand is what do you want to commit to? What do you want to get out of this holiday season? And I think that there's a lot of power that people can get out of tracking food over the holiday season. Most people have no idea how many calories are in things, and they tend to beat themselves up when in reality, it might not have even been that bad. So I think that there's a lot of power you guys can gain by tracking over the holidays. Now, with the exception of like Thanksgiving and Christmas, don't really matter. Like, let's not freaking stress ourselves out about that. We can go online and find calorie calculations of things and realize, okay, these are pretty high calorie days, and that's okay. But yeah, I just think that setting some intentions for yourself, some commitments that you're going to stick to over the next, 8 weeks is going to be really important. I mentioned before about the mistakes of like not staying present. And I think that this is where people can really make a step ahead for themselves is at the beginning of the week is putting together a list of your party priorities is what do I have coming up this week that I have to really plan for? Because those are the ones that you have to realize are going to be your flexible meals, and that everything else around that should just be allowing you to have that opportunity to be flexible at that meal. If you do that, you will find that it's a lot easier for you to navigate those things and not see changes in your body composition, in all of that stuff. You're going to actually be able to maintain and actually feel really empowered. Does that mean you're going to have to practice some discipline? Absolutely. Does it mean you're going to have to sometimes feel temptations? Absolutely. But if you have those commitments to yourself and you make them the right way and you allow yourself the flexibility at those special times, you're going to end each week feeling way more confident in yourself. So taking time to plan ahead. When people wing it in anything, in not even in the holiday season, guys, but even like in the middle of the year, people wing it with everything. Those are the ones that are not successful. You have got to have a plan. Got to have a plan. If you're traveling somewhere and you don't have an itinerary, what are you going to end up doing when you get there? Like, you're going to try and figure it all as you go. It's not always the best vacation, right? Same thing here, guys. Plan in those party times and enjoy them. So those are a couple of the main tips to kind of get you guys rolling. Now, a couple of other tips that I'm going to give you guys here is going to be more practical stuff. One of the things I want to talk to you guys about is, I already mentioned being flexible with your food, but actually learning how to navigate not having time to cook, not having time to prep. This is great skills for you guys to start to master earlier on in the month of November, because it's going to pop up. You're going to be at, the mall, and like, you're going to be thinking you're going to be there for an hour shopping, and you're there for 3 hours, and you got to stop at Chipotle. Knowing how to make those meals, like knowing your go-tos, like what you're going to grab, is going to be so much easier. Like when you're traveling, knowing like, okay, I always find a grocery store, or I find a Whole Foods where I can get some pre-made stuff. What do you have to find locally to allow you to kind of not have to stress about what you're going to eat? You've got to be a thinker with your food, just like you're a thinker with everything else in your life. We all think too much. I know that. We all think too much. You have to start to think about your food the same way you think about everything else in life. So making sure that you're planning those things ahead of time. Planning in your workouts, like making sure that those are part of your priorities. So those are my main things that I want you guys to think about going into the holiday season. And I'm going to keep this episode somewhat short because I don't want to I want to say this stupid analogy of like beating a dead horse, but like the reality is, guys, is if your goals mean something to you and all the work you've been doing this year means something to you, this next 6 weeks is really only a couple of days that you have to navigate. And even if you weren't perfect 10 days out of the entire next 6 weeks, that's still a small percentage and it's going to allow you to maintain. Just get out of the mindset of things have to be perfect all the time, that you have to always be fighting for fat loss, and into the mindset of right now, in order for me to maintain this weight, I need to learn to live the life of somebody that maintains this weight, which means understand that the holidays are going to be part of your year every single year. And this is a great opportunity for you guys to navigate those. So if you're not already in my Facebook group, make sure you join in because we're going to have tons of holiday accountability for you guys coming up. Lots of opportunities to win some prizes and some gifts. And I'm super excited for this holiday season. So have a great week. Talk to y'all soon.